What a year it's been for Bitcoin, with barely a month passing without some new development, from the CFTC confirming it considers Bitcoin to be a commodity, to the Bit licence, to the UK Treasury announcing it plans to require digital currency exchanges to implement AML standards similar to other regulated financial intermediaries. On top of that, we've seen Bitcoin rising, 38% over the year. So what can we expect in 2016? Charlie Morris, editor at atlaspulse.com, is with us. Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, it certainly has been an interesting 2015 when it comes to Bitcoin, hasn't it? It's
been a turning point. I think that's the thing to recognise. You know, we had this sort of fantastic high in 2013, which was probably too much too soon. And really, it did serve a purpose. In the same way the internet served a purpose with very high prices in '99, it told the world that we're here. There's something interesting that's going to happen. And we're not quite sure what it is, but it's going to happen. And in the next 2 years, huge amounts of venture capital money was raised. All sorts of projects are left, right and centre. Blockchain technology has been recognised, and most big banks have signed up to various blockchain projects. And so this technology is real, it's here. Bitcoin's found its low. It's had a massive correction from $1,000 down to around $200, and off we go again. So I think that it is exciting. 2016 is going to be renewed bull market conditions.
So what are going to be the key things to watch for in this market, do you think, next year?
Well, I think we've already had the most important thing, and the last time on this show was late summer, and I was saying that, you know, $300 was a very important point. And so if we got through $300, then Bitcoin wasn't dead. It was a signal of its future survival. And we're well through that. I think there's probably a correction in the short term, but I'm not worried about that. More importantly, it's, you know, when does this asset class become mainstream? And that will happen. One of the signals for that will be a new all-time high. And it's quite possible that happens in 2016, but if it doesn't, then 17 is very likely. You know, it doesn't take very long for this thing to start to move. And the reason I can say that with confidence is because there's a linear relationship between the amount people use Bitcoin and its price.
I mean, it's got to have helped it. Apple's comments, cryptography is great. I mean, it's got to have helped, hasn't it? Or not?
Yes, of course it does, because it's a voice of reason in a very serious conversation. You know, cryptography is not about helping terrorism, it's about securing computers. And, you know, with all these hacking things and the stories we keep hearing left, right and centre, why wouldn't you improve computers? Why would you let the government catch up? It's not, you know, the government's supposed to give us freedom and keep us safe. You know,
but that is always going to be the concern. I mean, that has been the concerns the whole way along. The hacking, and funding terrorism, and those are the concerns that have been there and are going to continue to be there, aren't they? Of
course, but I do think that banning cryptography is a bit like banning wax in the 17th century. You know, we've put on the back of an envelope. It's slightly absurd.
The use of cryptography, the word, I mean, you say we should be using the word digital assets. Do you feel that is because of how much we've seen it moved on, that's what they should be seen as?
Well, I've written extensively of why I don't believe that Bitcoin's a currency, and why, I mean, most people agree with that who have looked at it in detail. And the CFTC have said it's a commodity. That's the closest thing it is to a normal financial asset, because there's limited supply and so on. But really, it's something new. It's a new asset class. And if you believe that, and if you believe there's huge amounts of utility from these things in the future, then there's a long way to go from here. And I don't think we really understand why we need them yet. It will become increasingly apparent. It's probably not retail spend.
You say a long way to go, and you've actually been quoted saying you appreciate, you can imagine scenarios where digital assets appreciate 1,000-fold.
Yes.
What sort of timescale are we talking there?
Well, it's not a very difficult target in the big scheme of things if this is real, because you're dealing with an entire universe worth somewhere between $6 or $7 billion, which to put that into perspective, is the market cap of the world's 2,000th largest company. So if this thing is real and becomes a major part of the financial system, there's a long, long way to go.
But haven't we got a long, long way to go for that to happen? You say if this is real, becomes a part of the financial system. We've seen this year, I mean, I talked about the developments we've had this year with different states in the US sort of accepting it, creating licences for it, declining licences for it. I mean, we still have got a long way to go.
Of course. So a lot of people would compare this to sort of mid-90s internet. I mean, Bitcoin's 7 years old, so that's not unreasonable. Maybe a bit later on. So it's captured the imagination. There's a huge amount of investment. Do you remember the pushback on the internet in the mid-90s? Do you remember how...
I'd like to say I was too young, but sadly I'm not.
Sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean that as an offensive comment. But it really, we didn't know why we were going to need it. People said, well, it's teletext. Is that all it is? And it was a long time before people sort of woke up and realised it was fantastic.
The potential of it, yeah.
And that was actually some time after the boom in the shares. So it was after 99 that people really thought this was going to work. Because people had built all these things in the late 90s, but they didn't work for most of us. Most of us didn't have broadband. They did in America and Singapore and places like that. But in Britain, we're slow to roll out. So the internet didn't really work very well until 10 years ago.
So what will be the catalyst for you, for the world to realise it is real and it is an important part of currency? Digital world, rather, going forward.
Yes, well, I think that what we're seeing now in the banking system is they're all investigating and putting a lot of money behind private blockchains. And Bitcoin, of course, and its friends are public blockchains. So the argument is one of open versus closed. So we saw VHS beat Betamax. We saw Microsoft.
Now, yeah.
Microsoft in the early stages, beat Apple in the first round at least, and then the Linux took over the server market. The internet beat the intranet. Sorry. and all those things. So the sort of rule in computing. I'm not a particularly computer literate person. Quite good, but not that good. And they all say open beats closed, and that's a big theme that we have to recognise. So if we apply that simple rule again, you've got to wonder whether open is going to be closed this time. The big case for the open camp is the security, because the mining operation behind open source coins is brute force. Vast amounts of computer power required, and that is the security engine. The closed ones, the way they're going to stay safe is just by locking the door and not letting anyone in. So you've got to question which one's actually going to work more effectively in the future. I believe there's probably room for both. I believe the city is more likely to adopt private blockchain technology, but the opportunity for public blockchain is enormous.
There's also that, still, I feel, a lack of understanding of what Bitcoin is, how it's used, and that mining process.
Yes. Well, there are never
Does that not hinder it, do you know what I mean, to a certain extent, until that...
It's complex.
Yeah.
It didn't take me, 20 minutes to understand it. It took me quite some time of quite a lot of work before...
But does that not hinder its growth?
It does. But I think it needs to be repackaged into ways that will work for the consumer, so people don't know they're using it. It's probably... So the idea that it's money that we spend it in retail outlets is, I do think, missing the point. I don't think that we're going to walk around...
So what's its big
with
use in 2016?
Well, an example is the fact that you can leave a piece of information on a ledger forever. And people don't quite understand what that means. So I could send you a Christmas card in the post, and you'd look at it, put it on the table, and that'd be great, and then after Christmas you throw it in the bin. Or I could send you one over the blockchain, and it'll be there forever. Now, in the case of a Christmas card, that might not be, I could recycle it next year, perhaps, but maybe that's not so useful. But when it comes to legal contracts, and things like that, then people start to go, wow, that could be quite interesting. The idea that you could not lose that document that you agreed on and put onto a public blockchain, still encrypted, still not visible to the world necessarily, but there it is, locked down. And I think that a repository for important information is one example.
Which is where that digital asset, rather than the cryptocurrency, I suppose, comes into play.
I think so. I think it's going to go more technology and less retail spend. But because there's been very little take-up in retail spend, I mean, there has been utility, genuine utility gone into the system and the investment. So good things will follow. I have no doubt about that. But much of the activity is speculation still. And there's nothing wrong with speculation. I mean, people say, boo-hoo. But actually, if it's real, it's right there should be speculation, and actually doing the world a favour, because the faster we get the price up, the more venture capital comes in, and the quicker these things actually come to fruition. So I do think it's a positive virtual circle, or a negative virtual circle. So, but this year it's positive. OK, thanks very much, Charlie. Charlie Morris, editor at atlaspulse.com, on the outlook for Bitcoin, a digital asset over the next 12 months.